Hi everyone, this is Pramod Papanavan. Welcome to Empty Mind. In this video, we'll actually talk about how do we deploy Mule workloads on OpenShift. Right? So to actually get started, there are two main things that we need as part of this demo. One is we need to have the Mule portal access, anypoint portal access, and also Mule license along with it. And then the second thing is we should have one of the OpenShift or Kubernetes platform for it. Okay, let's get started. So the first thing what we'll do is we need to first sign up for anypoint platform if we don't have one. So the way actually to do that is go to anypoint.mulesoft.com and then you can just go click on sign up, provide your full name, email address, phone numbers and everything. I've already done that. I've already registered myself as part of this portal and then I already have my access to it. So what I will do is I'll just log into that using my existing credentials. So as soon as you log in, you'll always be assigned to one of your default organizations. And if you are, say for example, if you are having your own organizations that you need to be assigned to, you may need to talk to your organization owner so that they can actually invite you to that particular organization so that you're part of it. Right now I'm part of Red Hat INC. So what I'll do is, first thing I need to do is create different environments. Okay, so why do we need to create environments? We need to create environments because we know that we can actually deploy to that specific environment, the Mule workloads. So we'll first create the environments in anypoint platform and then associate those things inside the runtime fabric. And that is how we actually deploy things. So to do that, what we'll do is we'll create something called as environments. And to do that, this was the way it was earlier, but now we need to go to something called as business group, click on your business group name, and then go to environments tab, and then let's create an environment here. All right, so by default, you will have design and sandbox. And now what I want to do is I'll create something called as development environment. And here you can see that there are three types of environments that you can create. One is production. Basically, it's for production environments. And sandbox is for non-prod environment. So since I'm actually creating something for development, I will just use sandbox. Design is something where you will actually do things on the online anypoint platform. And then if you want to deploy it using that, then you will actually use design as part of it. But I'm going to use sandbox for now. Okay, so I'm just going to create it. And once it's created, you can see that development environment is created with a type of sandbox. Now that we have created it, we need to now create something called as runtime fabric. So let's go and click on runtime manager. And in here, since this is the first time I'm actually coming to this page after creating a new environment, it's going to ask me which environment to choose. So I'll choose the development environment. And make sure you are part of the development environment on the left-hand side, and then click on something called as runtime fabrics. And this is where you will actually start creating your runtime fabrics here. So I'm just going to create one runtime fabric as part of this. I'm actually going to call this as OCP RTF. And I'm going to choose the platform. As part of this, I'm actually using OpenShift as my platform. You can use any of the other Kubernetes platforms as well as part of it. Now what I'll do is I'll just click accept the terms and conditions, make sure you read them before you accept it. And then what you will do is you can see that it's going to provide us a few basic steps on what to do next, right? So here you can see that it actually tells you to create namespace, add a pull secrets for your namespace. And also it's going to talk to you about something called as activation data. So we'll come back to this activation data which we'll use as part of runtime fabric in OpenShift. Okay, so now that we have done a setup on the MuleSoft anypoint platform, we need to now go back to our OpenShift and then prepare our OpenShift to do things. So let's do that. Okay, so before getting there, what I'll do is I'll just log into OpenShift platform. All right, so I have this OpenShift platform. I'm logging in as admin, and then what I want to do is I'll actually need to log in using the CLI. So I'm just going to take in these credentials. And then what I'll do is I'll just come to this and then I'll log in. And by default, it's in the default namespace. So I want to create a new project called as RTF. Project RTF. And this is where I'll actually add in my pull secret as well. So let me go back to my page and then go to any point. And then what I want to do is I want to copy the pull secret as part of it. And then let me go back to my page. And here, I'll just remove and change this to just RTF. And now I should have the pull secrets part of it. Okay, cool. So now that this RTF is ready for us to use and install RTF Runtime Fabric, let's go and do that. Now let's go back to our browser, go to our OpenShift, and then go to operators, operator hub, and search for something called as Mule Runtime Fabric Operator. And I'm just going to use the default one. So when I was recording this, I was actually using the 2.4.45 version. So I'll just use this. And here I'm just going to go with the default ones. I'm not going to change anything. Okay. So now that it's actually installing it, let's have a look at things, right? So when it's actually doing installations, it's basically downloading all the operator related things from Red Hat registry. So you can see that it's actually downloading the image runtime fabric operator images from Quay, and then it's actually starting the operator as well. So once you actually see that it's all done, then you should see something called as succeeded as part of the status, which means that it's successfully installed. So now that the operator is installed, now we need to go and install the actual runtime fabric. Let's create the instance. So you can see here, you get the form view and the YAML view. I'll go to the form view so it's easier to follow. And then here you can see that it's actually asking for something called as activation data. If you recall, we did create something called as RTF, OCP RTF, and it actually gave us the activation data here. So let's copy that and paste it. Okay. And then it's going to ask us something called as Mule license. To get the Mule license, you need to go and talk to your Mule representative or your organization owner who can actually provide you the Mule license. And I already have the Mule license with me currently. So you can see that it's there as called as Mule license rh.org.lic. So this particular license file is a binary file. So I need to convert this to base 64. So what I'll do is I'll convert this to base 64 and then copy it to my clipboard. All right, cool. So now that it's copied onto, okay, so sorry, I was not showing that. So you can see that it's actually Mule license org. Organization license has been there, and it's actually a binary file. So I've already converted that using a base 64 command. I've copied that to clipboard as well. And what I want to do now is I want to go back to my browser and then paste that license. And once I've pasted the license, make sure that before you click enter or you click create, I want to make sure that this one's actually not installed in the OpenShift operator namespace, but onto the RTF namespace which we created. All right. And then in here, you can see that there are other things as well which we don't need. Like we already have the activation data and then the Mule license as well as part of it. So let's go ahead and create this now. So as soon as we click that, you can see that it's actually trying to create the runtime fabric. It says initialize deploy. It's trying to do that initialization for us. And then if you look at the events, you will see that it's actually pulling all the images from the Mule runtime registry server, and then it's actually going to start up all the services for us. So basically that's what's happening. So let's have a look at the workloads. So you can see here it's actually starting up the agent. This is one of the critical things. So it's already started the cache, and then it's starting the agent as well. As soon as all of them are ready for us to actually consume, then what happens is that means that your runtime fabric is up and running successfully. So it looks like it's completely deployed. Let's still go ahead and look at things. So you can see that it's ready to /2. And now once these things are all ready, which means it's all installed, you can go back to your Anypoint platform. And now you can see that in the same page where you were actually having all those instructions has been changed to something called a status page, where it shows you that it's active, and it also tells you that it's a RTF namespace, and it's been and also tells you where the license expiry date as well for us. All right. And now you can see that there's also something called as inbound traffic. Here you can see that it's giving us a warning saying that you don't have any ingress. So now what we need to do is let's try to solve this. Okay. So now what I'll do is I already have a ingress template which I actually use. So what I'll do is I'll just copy that into my RTF namespace, and I'll go to something called as networking and ingress, and then I'll just paste my ingress as part of it. And you can see that I'm actually saying that the namespace is RTF. That's the same namespace which I'm creating. And then I'm calling this as RTF ingress. That's fine. And then make sure that you have your app name as a prefix, because that's how Mule actually understands that it has to replace that app-name with actual name. And then the router internal default is kind of default one. And then I just need to change this, whatever that's there in here as your default router, to the router name. So what I'll do is I'll just copy this, which is nothing but our cluster till the .com. And then I'll just replace that in here. Okay. So now this looks like a perfect ingress. And then you can see that it's actually saying that I'm going to expose it as a HTTP service. So I'm just going to create it as create. As soon as we do that, now if you go back to your Anypoint management platform, you will see that the warning's gone away, and then I will actually see that you have your ingress as well. Okay, so now that these things are done, but you will also see that if you go back to your applications, and if you try to deploy any application, say for example, I'm just going to say test, and I'm going to click on something called as hybrid, and you can see that there's nothing called as RTF. Well, what we need to do is once we create this RTF, go back to your runtime fabric, and then click on associated environments, and make sure you click on development, and then click apply. As soon as we actually do that, this actually kind of enables us to use the RTF on a development environment. So now let's deploy a new demo Mule application. So I'll say must be Mule deploy demo, and then in hybrid, okay, there's something wrong. So let me refresh my page. Maybe it's taking time to reflect. Okay, now we can see something called as runtime fabric, and you will see something called as OCP RTF, so that we know it's actually going and deploying it onto our OCP RTF that's associated to our OpenShift. And now you can either choose your own application, upload it, but as part of my demo, what I'll do is I'll just use some of the examples that's part of the exchange itself. And what I'll do is I'll just use Hello World program. And here you can see that as part of the Hello World program, we'll just, okay. So you can see that this application will actually listen on 80 port, and then log something once a request comes in, and then sets a payload as well, and then returns back. So that's pretty much it. And then you can see that how you can access this URL as well. So now let's go back and then use this application and then click select. And here you can see that I'm also selecting like 4.5 as a runtime version for my Mule. And then I'll just set it as 1 core as my maximum CPU limit. I'll go more than that. And then I'll just keep everything as default. I'm just not going to do anything else. I'm just going to click deploy. As soon as I click deploy, you can see that it's deploying right now. It's even though it's not running in the background, you can go back to your Mule namespace and you'll see that all of a sudden you will have a new namespace with some ID in here. This is nothing but your organization ID and your unique ID as part of it. And then you can see that it's creating an ingress, and then it's going to actually create all of your Kubernetes objects for it. So let's go back to our pods, and you can see that it's now deploying and then deploying the image and then trying to run it. So let's see what's happening. Okay, you can see that it's still starting up. As soon as it starts up, then it should be in a ready status. Okay, I think it's just waiting for the readiness probe is waiting for it to start up completely. Okay. Okay, looks like it's up and running now. Okay, cool. So now what we need to do now is go back to our ingress, go to network, ingress, and you can see that we had an ingress through which we were able to actually access it. So I'll go to the routes, which the ingress creates a route. So I'm just going to click this route. And then you can see that now this one actually shows the proper endpoint, says that there's no listener on it. That's correct, but we need to click the application. So for that, what we'll do is we just need to go through this, copy this, and then let's hit this. And now you can see that you got a hello world as part of the response as well. So that kind of concludes our complete Mule deployment on OpenShift. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. To summarize, basically what we did in this demo was first create an endpoint platform, and then create a development environment, and then associate that environment to a runtime fabric after creating a runtime fabric in it, and then use the runtime fabric that was created on endpoint platform. The details like activation data and then the pull secrets and all those things were actually utilized on an OpenShift runtime operator, and then we created a runtime fabric on the OpenShift side as well, so that both the things are connected. Once things are connected, then we'll actually go and deploy an application through endpoint platform, which actually pushes the jar and creates an image, and then that will be actually residing on OpenShift, which is in turn deploying on OpenShift. That is how we actually ensure that we were able to successfully deploy a Mule workload on OpenShift. Hopefully you like this video. Thanks for watching.